So before I turn it over to my panelists, I have to say that I used to work in the Ford Foundation, and I left the Ford Foundation and joined UNDP because I was so impressed with the Human Development Report that came out in 1990. It was produced by Mahbubul Haq in the UNDP with the help of Amartya Sen. And the first report was in 1990. And I thought, this is great, I mean, this is absolutely wonderful. So I said to the Ford Foundation, sorry, I'm walking across the yard and joining the UNDP as an economist in the India office. And 91, we did work on, we launched one of the Human Development Reports with Mahbubul Haq. The global launch was in India. But over the years, I find that what's happened there, Mahbubul Haq used to say that he ranked countries in terms of human development, and his main interest was to make sure that Pakistan was always below India. And he said that's possible to do it because there are decimals, right? India is ahead in education and health, Pakistan ahead is in per capita income. But you can make some minor decimal adjustments so that Pakistan remains below India in order to shame the generals there into thinking that they must really do better than India on this index and invest in education and health rather more than they have done. But ironically, over the years, the countries that take the greatest interest in the Human Development Report are the top countries. So when the report came out initially, in the first report, USA was number one. Then in one other report, early reports, Canada was there. And then of course they've been displaced by the Scandinavian countries. Norway is now number one. But when USA was displaced by one rank to Canada, George Bush the first called up the administrator of UNDP and said, how is this possible? This is wrong. And then they had to explain to him, listen, more or less like Canada, but except that Canada has a very good tertiary education system, and more students in Canada go into tertiary education than they do in the United States, and therefore you get beaten there, and that's why. So, but even now, I mean, the entire, I mean, I'm talking about rankings, right? So it now looks like Oxford would care about whether it's on top or has beaten Cambridge, which is a traditional rivalry, or whether, Caltech is somewhere or Stanford is somewhere. I mean, but the countries that should worry about the state of affairs, which are way below, if you're 800, 900, as he pointed out, he's getting somewhere. Though there's that sense of competition that Mahbubul Haq wanted among the developing countries didn't emerge. Because all the media focuses on which are the top countries. So Norway and Sweden, there's a lot of editorials that get written because of a traditional rivalry between one colonizing power and former colony in that place, and it's all meaningless because in that category you don't care what is number one, what is number two. So the whole ranking logic doesn't seem. So the idea was to promote a certain spirit of competitiveness, to focus on things that you need to pay attention to and so on. And I'm not sure whether the ranking systems that we have for university education actually will do that. Because I'm talking about the Human Development Report was very directly meant to do that. And it hasn't. So therefore there are important questions. So I think the same sorts of questions that we addressed earlier are back again, but with a specific focus on whether this grouping called BRICS because emerging economies at some point will declare themselves as having emerged. I think China is already doing that. It regards itself as no longer emerging. It has arrived under its new leader. It's there. It's got to play an important part in international agenda. It's got to stand up for multilateralism in the WTO. Even though within China, when it joined WTO, there were lots of people who said, "Why the hell are we joining this grouping and being put to restrictions that are really rigged towards countries that had very good lawyers, basically." So anyway, but that's how we are. So I'd go by the order in which the speakers are listed as panelists in the program. Having said my piece, I have nothing else to add to that. So can I ask you, Professor Rensberg, to lead us off? And thank you very much for an absolutely inspiring keynote address this morning.
It's a kind. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues, and thank you, Chair. Just a couple of comments from my side, just to kick the ball off. I think that the first challenge for BRICS is to recognize that BRICS can't just be about economics. It's important for these nations to flourish economically, especially in light of the stilt from west to east and the rise of Africa over the next 50 years. And therefore it's important for them to recognize that their influence is more important perhaps than even the economics. Their ability to, and I say this with great care because the election swings and roundabouts in, I think Brazil has been a real shocker. But again, it reflects the drama that plays out on the left as well. So it's not just a case of the people being hapless and hopeless. It's a case of how the left executes its project, implements its project. But that's not the topic for me today. All that I want to say is that, notwithstanding electoral drama, this bloc of nations have the greatest possibility to nurture an alternative global order to the one that we have. One that is far more inclusive, one that is far more caring, one that respects multilateralism and builds multilateralism. And I can go down the line. So that's the first real point I want to put across, that BRICS can't just be about economics. It must also be about values. It must also be about global governance. It must also be about leadership. The related point is that BRICS, second point, BRICS must also be about embedding. Now we heard the word this morning, embedding. It must also be about embedding the grand challenges within BRICS. But at the same time as we embed and as we challenge ourselves around those grand challenges, to look at the world and therefore to imagine an alternative world to the one that we have. So whether it is climate change, artificial intelligence, robotics and machine learning, or whether it is astrophysics and its import for a future world, or whether it is simply about what I suggested this morning, that our planet is going through a troubling period where, as things go now, it is not going to be able to renew itself. So whether it's that set of issues, or whether it's a set of issues relating to women and young people in the world and their role and place in this new world that I'm imagining, BRICS leaders imagining, or whether it is about poverty and inequality. And so these things are connected to this idea that yes, it is an economic bloc, but if it locks itself into being an economic bloc, it's going to lose it's going to lose what it really, is able to accomplish. That's the second thing. The third point, coming back now to research and output and so on. My third and last point is really that if we're going to turn things around as BRICS in the manner that I'm arguing, then we're going to have what the EU has been doing over the last 2 decades. Investing significant resources in global scale research initiatives. And I'm speaking about us as BRICS now. It means we're going to have our own Erasmus, Gandhi, right? Or whatever personality projects for us this new world order. We're going to have our own Gandhi fund to be able, and I'm speaking of billions, and let's use the dollar for the moment. I'm not going to speak ruble or rupee. It's going to require that scale of investment that we have been seeing. Investment has been made in the EU, and it's going to have to deal with a range of things, from libraries through to excellence. And so that is my main argument. So just two sets of data for us to consider. The first is, let's look at the where's this thing now? Let's look at the data on PhDs per million. PhDs per million are important because it signals a country's pathway. And there are connections, correlations between output, or shall I say PhDs, publications, research outputs, influential research output, and economic development. So I'm just going to pick on three countries. China, a decade ago, 443 PhDs per million. Today, as we speak, 1,200 PhDs per million. So good growth. India, 152, today 216. Not so good growth. Russia has gone the other way. 3,796. Yeah. It is now sitting at 3,131. And then the last set of statistics that I want to share is then the total number of researchers. I think I referred to it this morning. I'm not going to repeat it, except to say that in terms of the total number of scholars actively involved in research, and remember, I'm just using the word narrowly, publications research. We all, hopefully, are looking for impactful, substantive influence on our futures. Right? So it's not just the little nitty-gritty little project that's been published. It's hopefully in there the cumulative effect that we're looking for nurturing this alternative order. And so, to end, I mentioned earlier the devastating statistics, but this has to do with our history. But that history must be changed. It has to do with the demolition, the destruction of our own institutions. If we think of India's first institution in the 6th century, established, gone. If we look at Africa's universities, 9th, 10th, and 11th century institutions, blown away by colonialism. And so we had to start afresh. And we had to build it on the colonial model of university. And so let's keep that in mind as I just repeat the stats. But it is history there to be changed. Harvard output equals South Africa's output. Total output. Just for emphasis. India's 39 central universities' output is equivalent to Stanford's output. Total Africa output is equivalent to France's output. Total BRICS output, and that's the clangor. Total BRICS output, if we want to change the world, is equivalent to UK, France, and Germany put together. That has got to change, and it is going to change when we convince our leaders that the project is economic, but it's far beyond economic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I request Shromen Chattopadhyay to comments?
Yeah. So thanks, Chair, and speakers, fellow speakers. What I need to do, in the 10 minutes that I have possibly, is to envision the future of the universities in the Indian context, but a lot of it will remain relevant for BRICS, a lot of countries. I would like to begin with the question that how do I define excellence when I have a future of the universities in mind, keeping in context the state, society, and the university economic linkage, which vary across the countries. I would like to emphasize on the point that we have to uphold the public good character of higher education. When I mean public good character of higher education, I don't mean that there is a trade-off between the privateness and publicness. Both reinforce each other. And public good character is essential because we are talking about the block of countries where unequal access to higher education continues to be a big challenge. And now I think the discourse is on the common good approach. I mean, we have elevated from public good to common good, which requires that, given the fact that the higher education system is highly differentiated, we need to ensure that equalities to equal opportunities to all the students aspiring to pursue higher studies. The second dimension will be in terms of the knowledge. Knowledge has to be a public good and knowledge has to be a global public good. And when I mean knowledge has to be a global public good, it has to be a national public good as well. Now, there is a conflict between funding of knowledge and making knowledge a public good. I understand the conflict and that patent comes in between. But even then, the idea would be that if knowledge has to serve the challenges that we are confronted with, knowledge has to be a public good, and therefore the focus has to be on research. Now, when we are talking about the excellence in terms of public good characteristic, without there being any trade-off between privateness and publicness, there are two challenges here. I mean, I've been listening to all the speakers and Professor Rainsberg in particular this morning. The trade-off between massification and excellence, and I'd like to just briefly highlight two things. One, that there need not be any trade-off as long as we focus on governance. When you are looking at the higher education system as a whole in India, the public and the private are afflicted with two different kinds of diseases. Private sector, there are pockets of excellence. There are pockets of excellence in both public and private. I'm not referring to those universities, but within private, it is a cost-cutting tendency which has diluted the quality of education delivered, and that is why it is a degree-producing base. For the public universities, it is mainly a question of poor governance. So given the funding, I think there is an enormous amount of scope to utilize the resources, particularly human capital, and to deliver quality. The second dimension is academic freedom enjoyed by the faculty to be bestowed on the faculty, institutional autonomy, and the possible conflict between financial autonomy on one hand and institutional autonomy and academic autonomy on the other side. And here lies the distinction between public and the private universities. Is very important because the way they ensure that both sides of the budget are balanced, it has got a very serious implication to the manner in which the mandates are set and achieved, and the way the education and research is conducted and education is delivered. But the financial autonomy, brief reference to the graded autonomy, I think the MHRD has got it wrong when, in the name of institutional autonomy and academic autonomy, there is a conflict between the two. I'm not going to deliberate on this. But when the financial autonomy is being given to the universities, remember the traditional universities does need public funding, generous public funding to pursue research. That doesn't mean that they should not remain unaccountable. Autonomy and accountability should be the two sides of the coin, and it is in terms of autonomy and accountability debate, there is a need for the ranking and the benchmarking. Why? Because commercialization is a big blow quality of education, and in order to negate the adverse impact of commercialization on higher education, I think benchmarking is very important because it can safeguard what do we mean by quality and how the higher education institution can pursue quality. And that is where the benchmarking is very, very important. But we must remind ourselves that given the pyramidal nature of the higher education system, that there are pockets of excellence at the top, but the majority of them are suffering from poor school education and poor governance and unscrupulous commercial practices. We need the regulation, and that is why MHRD seeks to do that. Some category 3 institutions are going to be regulated. It has been explained by Pankaj in the first session, and the universities which have performed in terms of NAC and NIRL should be able to deliver, should be given the freedom to deliver. Now I come to the second part of my talk. It's about the challenges that we face. I will be focusing on some of the challenges and not the entire gamut of challenges that we are faced with. I think when you are talking about benchmarking and ranking, and we're trying to create a global market through this ranking of the universities at the global level, we must remember that there does not exist a technology for the universities. Harvard, located in NCR, cannot be a similar Harvard in the United States, neither Princeton nor Stanford. So there is an absence of technology, and this is very, very vital, that where we can produce possibly iPad, but we cannot have an Harvard here in the NCR region, because there is no technology. And the stock of human capital at any point of time is given, and they are distributed across the universities. And that is why you observe, as you mentioned, there's a great deal of stability in the hierarchy of the universities for the last 100 years. Now, why the culture is very important? Because since there is no technology, there is a tendency to subvert the process, both teaching and research. And it is here, I believe, the students, teachers, and the leadership, all these three have got a very, very vital role to play. The students need not be the customers, need not be the consumers, and the student agency is very, very important when it comes to the core of teaching and learning process, the human capital formation. If the students are if they become customers, they earn degrees, but they should not be able to buy degrees, and that is why it is important. The teachers' agency is also very important, and it is here how the academic freedom, how does the leadership deal with the teachers' autonomy, and how the teachers, in particularly talking about the public funded universities, remain motivated, and they deliver and they enthuse the students in the process is very, very important. The other dimension of culture is the political interference. It has to be curbed to give utmost autonomy to the institution. Otherwise, political interference coupled with bureaucratization, this is what I face. The majority of the public funded universities are really suffocating for the faculty to do what we would like to do. But ultimately what happens that this kind of rejuvenation can come only when we feel that we belong to the universities and we can cater to the society and economy in our respective ways. And given the way the universities are funded, I think the leadership has got a very important role to play, because they have to focus on self-esteem and what we very often call in economics of education, instead of profit maximization, we should be maximizing prestige. And if that doesn't come from within, then possibly we can't really deliver. Now, let me stop here. If there are questions, then I can take it.
Thank you. Before I invite Ms. Sun Meijing from China, I have to say that the Vice Chancellor of this university drew great inspiration in setting up this university, even from his visits to China. And Stephen Marks would corroborate that he, I think every morning he wakes up and thinks, why can't Indian universities do what China has managed to do? How is it that they've done this? How come that they think 100 years ahead? And we are thinking of the next year, if at all. So we're very keen to hear your views on this, and in particular, this explanation for this phenomenal growth, and in terms of, as you put it, prestige and standing, which the top universities in China now have. Please.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, professors and colleagues. I'm very happy to be here today, and because you may notice that my information is not on the brochure, because I was not sure if I can come today. There are so many activities going on in my embassy, especially Friday we had a India-China youth dialogue. You might read the news from the newspaper. There was 150 youth between the two countries, and they have the good communication together. So finally I could make it for today. And I was thinking, what should I talk about today to all the professors and experts on education? I'm thinking nowadays Chinese universities is developing in a good way. It's developing really fast. So many countries are looking at the development of Chinese universities. So maybe today I could spend some time to talk about the development of how the Chinese government is supporting the Chinese universities to going ahead towards to the world-class level of education. So since the Ministry of Education in China is promoting the Chinese university to the world-class level, recent years we have got the benefit from the strong policies and the good funding provided from the Chinese government. For example, the recent QS ranking in 2019, Tsinghua University in Beijing ranks the first in Asia university, which is very good news for all of us. So today, maybe I can introduce the policy with the answer of 3 questions. One is the history, how we promote, how we come to the first class level, the history, how the development. And second, how to understand our policy for the world-class university. And the third, maybe the impact, I can talk about the impact of the policy on universities, teachers, students. That's all we are eager to know. As you may know that the concept, the name of the Chinese world-class university is called double world-class policy. It is not only focused on university, also we have focused on disciplines. So it is not only reflect to the first-class level of impact. Also, we need to see the China's national conditions and the national strength. It should serve the national key strategy layout and also the smoothly link up to the key construction project in the past. To talk about this double world-class, how we establish this double-class policy, we didn't have this concept before. Initially we had this 211 project, which is as early as 1991, when the first section of 7th National People's Congress approved the outline of the 10-year plan and 8th 5-year plan for the national economy. It is clear state that we need a number of universities to be well-run and with the emphasis. We should strengthen the construction of numbers of key disciplines so that we can reach or approach the level of the similar level of disciplines in developed countries in terms of scientific and technology level. It is suggested that the State Education Commission should set up the key university and the key disciplines where the Chinese government can give the fund and to emphasize on the development of these good universities, so that when after they develop, they can lead other universities to develop on the same level. So this program is emphasis more on the disciplines. And then we come across to this 985 policy. Why we name this? Because this concept is originally given from the speech of the former President Jiang Zemin with the topic of mobilization order for revitalization of nationals through the science and education, issued on the 100 years anniversary celebration in Beijing University. This program is emphasis on developing the world-class universities, not only the disciplines. So such universities should be a cradle of cultivating creative talent with early and high quality and frontier understanding of unknown world, exploring objective truth, providing the scientific basis of solving major problems facing mankind, and the important force of knowledge innovation, and promoting the transformation of scientific and technology achievement into realistic productive forces, and should be a bridge between the fine culture of nation and the achievement of the world advanced civilization. So these two projects we have emerged. We have advantage and disadvantage, both sides. So for advantage, we are focusing on university level, on internationalization, and also we are focusing on the disciplines. So some university may not may not be the least of the world-class university, but they have the world-class disciplines. So that the students, when they choose the university, they are not only see the rankings of the universities, they also focus on the rankings of the disciplines. So this is what we want to establish the Chinese university. But for this projects, we also have disadvantage. That's why we moved to now where we are having the double world-class policy. For disadvantage, I think we have the three aspects. One is, although the 985 policy, which is focused on the university, is a great importance to the construction of system and mechanism, Chinese university is still facing the invisible barrier to reach the top university in the world, and higher education is still weak in cultivating top innovative talent and producing the significant original achievement. The second is the imbalancing of development of the universities. And the third, which is I think is the most important, is for these two projects, when the Chinese government is promoting, is for lifetime, which is not good. Once you got this seat, and you will stay for lifetime. And for others, even though they are developing very, very fast, they cannot be the least of these universities. So the Chinese government decided to combine these two concepts together to emerge this double world-class policy. This policy is to integrating resources, systematically reforming and promoting development. We continue with the 985 and 211 projects. For a base is the development, establish national strategy task, and at the same time we promote our ideal state, ideological level, and practice practical ability to build the high-level university to a new level. Here I would like to spend some time to explain the concept that we're promoting this policy. This policy, as I was mentioned, is not only emphasis on universities, also disciplines. And some universities, they are first-class university, but some universities, they have the first-class disciplines. We also, for this double world-class policy, we have 4 emphases. The first, we combine these two projects together, and also we're considering the advantage discipline innovation platform, and also the characteristic key discipline projects. The central government will take the construction of world-class university and first-class disciplines in central universities into considering in the budget allowance system, and provide guidance and support through the relevant special fund. So we have this in our 5-year plans in the government. The second, further enhance the financial autonomy, which is very important for the development of the university. They have autonomy for the financial factors, and so that they will know which part of the university development need more fund. So normally the Chinese government only give the fund to the university, and they have their own strategy to use the funding. And the third is to establish incentive and restraint mechanism, encourage fair competition, strengthen target management, and highlight the effectiveness of construction. The allocation of funds takes into the account more factors such as quality of running schools, especially the level of disciplines and the characteristics of running schools. It focuses on schools with high level and distinctive characteristic, and reflects the support of the excellent and support the strong, and also support the special and fair competition. The fourth, we emphasize on the strengthening of overall plan for the construction of world-class universities as well as disciplines, encourage and support the development of different types of high-level education and disciplines in 5 years. In 5 years so that every 5 years we will evaluate the university again to decide who will be in the list, still in the list of the policy. I read from the internet. There's a professor in Beijing University giving the idea that he said, in fact, the resources related to the lifeline of Chinese universities, not the fund provided by the government. According to what he said, there are only less than 10% of the funds provided by the government to support the university. What is more important is to develop more doctoral and master degree in the university. Because as all the professors think that they will relate to the outcome of the research and also the development of the university. The second question I would like to talk about is to how to understand our double first class policy. This policy is originally promoted in 2015, and the principal, objective, and overall ideas of the construction have been determined. The construction task can be summarized as the first class teacher, first class personal training, first class scientific research, and first class social services, and first class culture heritage. However, the definition of world class is not so clear, it's vague. There are many debates related in China. We have noticed that at several seminars held by the Education Authority and the key construction universities, some officials and scholars believe that to enter the ranking of the world-class university means the university must be entered the list of the top ranking in the world, in the mainstream world discipline, university ranking. Also for the disciplines must be the top of the ranking among all the world university disciplines. Even though there are many debates for the ranking system, still we are still using the ranking for evaluate the university and how they are doing in terms of teaching, internationalization, research outcomes, this and all. But for some scholars, they believe that education authority should not regard university ranking or disciplines as a main indicator of the development of the world-class university. They should step out of the way of the ranking and evaluate universities, examine more influence and the contribution of representative achievement in the world, and track more the achievement of graduates, more systematic evaluation of the contribution of university to the national economy and the social development, focusing more on participating of university in global affairs and the attractive of international students. The third part I want to talk about is the impact of this policy on universities, teachers, and students. For the university aspect, the proposition of key, like I was talking about, the key of the contribution fund in this 985 project college and university in the total operating fund is generally not less than 10% of the budget. But still, the college and university attach great importance to the key construction. 985 project college and universities are extremely anxious about whether they can be included in this project, because it is very important for them to attract more students, scholars, and to have the cooperation with international universities. In terms of the teachers, this double first class policy emphasis on how promoting Chinese university to the world, focusing on internationalization in the global context and internationalization in the local context. And this policy will benefit for development of disciplines and teachers in Chinese universities. And at the same time, we should notice that the transformation of national administration from running education to managing education, from direct management to indirect management, and from micro management to micro management, from education management to educational governance. So this will give more autonomy to the university. But if the policy is only focusing on how to upgrade Chinese university to the Western model, to the Western academic standard, and do the same to measure and value the Chinese university disciplines and teachers, there will be unscientific. This will lead marginalization of members of disciplines and teachers in the computation, and would maintain the diversity of universities and destroy the balance of academic, economically environment of university. So only in this way we achieve if only this way we only can achieve successfully in single standard in higher education and developing unevenly. The third, the students. The world-class university or world-class disciplines means the world-class education, including the world-class graduate education, also the world-class undergraduate education. Paying attention to the undergraduate education is the top priority of China's higher education reform. As you may notice from the news, that a few days ago the Ministry of Education announced the policy that we have pay more attention to the undergraduate level of teaching. Before, as you may know, after high school, all the Chinese students will have a entrance exam. It's not like in India we have different fields, but they have the exam all together. So this exam is a lifetime decision for the students to which university you can study in. So most of the students, when they get the chance to enter a good university, they will relax. They will do whatever they want. As long as they pass the exam, they can get a degree. But now things are not like that anymore. We evaluate the students with their, for example, attendance, the daily behavior, and also all the evaluate from all the teachers. So it is always important for a university to pay more attention to the undergraduate students' teaching. Also for the Chinese. Sorry, time is up. Sorry, maybe I will come to the conclusion.
The accident.
Because I was asking how long I can talk, because for speaking of the double world class policy in China, it's really too much to talk. Maybe I'll come to a conclusion. I've read from the professor, Mr. Ding is a professor of Hong Kong University, and he graduated from Harvard. He put the word in his book, What is the World-Class University? He said, although it is located in the town and geographically limited in the country, it is never confined to a country in spirit, but it belongs to the world. Its teachers and students come from all over the world and go all over the world, influence all over the world. A truly world-class university is concerned about everything, does everything, and explores everything. I'm sorry about the timing. I've been talking too much. I hope that helps all of the professors to understand the policy of China's development in the university. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since you mentioned world-class, the last quotation, it reminds me that in about 1770, thereabouts, there was an English writer called Oliver Goldsmith who wrote a piece called Citizen of the World. It's this collection of essays. And it's really a commentary on the state of England. But he invented a character who's from China, from Canton, who is commenting on the state of British society And if you and again the conclusion of that is really that we have to develop an attitude that we are all citizens of the world. And his concern was about the hierarchy in English society, about inequalities in English society. And since he couldn't directly say it himself, it wouldn't have credibility, he made it come out of the analysis of the Chinese. So when China, talked, you see, he anticipated that people will listen to China.